when we look at things from a wait and see perspective, what do you think will potentially happen based on what is happening in current climate?
You can see, but you can't wait. Companies, organizations are evolving, especially now with the economic climate. So companies are currently still in the flux and they are reorganizing. If I'm a young graduate or even a graduate that has got 3 to 5 years experience to just simply quit, hoping that I will get another job of similar role or similar pay, this may not happen because the job may not be there. Some of those AI can take over certain of the role. The role is being redefined and the skill set is a different set of skill set.
As an employer, how do you view candidates that have taken a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kind of a sabbatical? Of course, they might have various reasons, right? How do employers view this type of career break? Everyone, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Wise and Shine by the Financial Coconut. My name is Alex and I am flying solo today. I have recently rebranded actually to be called the Growth Connector. And why the Growth Connector? Because I will connect you to the right solutions through my resources, networks and ecosystem to give you the growth that you want to experience and also the peace of mind that you seek. Thank you very much for tuning in today. And today's topic is once again on careers, but we are actually talking about career breaks. Whether you should be taking it, whether you shouldn't be taking it. Is it riskier to take a career break today than it was 5 or 10 years back? We have Pui Wah with us today to share a little bit more about what he's been doing with employability and also how the job market has shifted. So within our midst, I'm sure we have at least 2 or 3 people that are taking a break from work or deciding to take a break from work, whether it's because of family planning, other responsibilities that you might have, burnout, or maybe you want to take a sabbatical because you want to improve on your skill sets. So this is a great episode for you to understand whether or not now is a good time or perhaps you should be holding your horses, right? So Pui Wah, share with us a little bit more about what you do and also where the job market actually stands now.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Pui Wah. I've been in the industry for a long time. I took about 40 years to be precise. The last 17 years, I have the opportunity to work in higher education with the one of the top 2 universities in Singapore, a role that I led for 17 years. Of course, very, very important is helping the undergraduates and also the graduate student to look for a job. That is probably my one and only job, of course. We could prepare them. And before that, I was in the industry. My second longest job was with one of the big 4 management consultants. And again, helping people to do so. I now run my own independent consultancy, still dealing with people. So in some of my time, I'm talking to people that is really both with jobs or out of job, and more important, the employer. So that gives me still very much in touch with the industry, more so now as we look ahead to the challenges in the job market.
So in a very, very strategic position where you understand the needs of employers.
Yes.
And at the same time also helping to place, right?
Right.
And earlier we talked about 33,000 graduate or undergrad or postgraduate students that
undergraduate and postgraduate.
And postgraduate. Wow, that's a lot. So if you multiply that by 17, that's
Yes, I kind of do a quick count. It's more than 100 over 1,000 that, and of course, most of them do not need me. That was, in the earlier years. Mm-hmm. But we are going through turbulent times. And so this is a great topic to share with your audience. And hopefully with my 40 years of experience, having been an employee, right, for all these years, living through the 80s, the 90s, the .com, the SARS and the COVID, hopefully my experience will find something useful for your
now,
audience.
Especially with AI as well, right?
Yes, yeah. And we can talk another hour in AI, but today I thought we just focus on those who have an intention of leaving their work, whether voluntary or involuntary. There's a big difference.
Yes. So I think let's get a good bird's eye view of the current climate and the current situation here in Singapore, right? What really is the picture of unemployment and underemployment today? Are there official numbers, statistics that you might be able to share?
It's an interesting scenario, typically for Singapore. I guess you read a lot with the Ministry of Manpower on the stats. I won't go very specific into that. But in general, what we are seeing is, as far as the unemployment is concerned, it maintains relatively stable. Surprise, but it's still relatively stable, although we may have some sectors which is slightly higher on the whole. What worries us that is far below what they are qualified for. So in a nutshell, everything seems to be rosy, but underneath there is a fear that we are not optimizing our manpower in terms of our skill set.
And the talent.
And the talent, right? So for example, if you are highly qualified and yet you couldn't find a job that meets your qualification or your skill, so you begin to look for any job and you scale down, and well, you may still find a job at a lower pay, but you're actually dispensing some of those who are lower skilled. So what would the lower skill do? So they will have to pivot to some other thing. So it's a little bit of an interesting situation currently, and time will tell as to whether the situation will improve, but certainly not now as we see the challenges, at least for the second half of the year.
When did this new phenomenon or trend actually surface? Has it been in the last 3 to 5 years or even longer than that?
I would say, based on my observation, the watershed year is obviously before and after COVID.
Right.
What happens before COVID? Life is normal. Everyone goes through the normal cycle of working, graduation, find a good job, good paying job, get married, get your BTO, and upgrade. All things came to a drastic disruption during the COVID. Two phenomena, as we have observed. One is because of the economic downturn during COVID, many of the companies are either closed down, so people lost their job, involuntary, can't be helped, but somehow or other, during that period of time, there's lots of incentive, people get back their job. There's also another group which is a great, we call it a great resignation, simply because at that period of time, we were all worried what's happening to the world, and some voluntary, right, take a break, career break, to take care of families or just simply go and do something else just to rethink. And of course, when we recovered, get back into the workforce. And during the COVID period, remember, many of the business pivot away from the brick and mortar into the e-commerce, essentially online. So you can see that trend already started of moving a lot into technology. When you're without people or there's not enough of employee, either they resign or either they got retrenched, you have to find another way. So IT comes about, and it was at that time, there is a market, there is opportunity for AI. So it didn't stop until then, and it will continue. AI will continue to disrupt some of those work that were previously held by people.
Yes. And with this phenomenon where people are overqualified for the roles that they have, would you say it is more specific to certain industries?
In general, the IT part of it, based on my observation, has always been an area of concern. Now, put it this way. If some of the roles traditionally are being held by very qualified people, some of this role, job responsibility, has now been taken over by AI, especially roles that will regular, those that doesn't require too much of an innovation or creativity, roles that are repeated. All these roles, if you belong to that, are susceptible to be disrupted and you may not be able to get a job if you, for one reason or another, decided to quit and want to get back to the workforce again.
So I guess what I'm trying to also understand is if someone were to do a master's in a particular specialization, or maybe a even more general MBA kind of a upskill, right, or level up, would that also then mean that they would not be able to get a role, or they would be getting a role that is not as well paid and senior as what they would think that they can get?
We have to distinguish, at least right now in the prevailing climate, between a qualification and credentials versus what the industry demand. So essentially, because of technology and particularly in AI, certain of the skill set that were once upon a time being taught at the higher education level risk being displaced by AI. So you may be highly qualified in a particular certification, whether or not it's a master's or a postgraduate degree, if what you were taught versus what is required by the industry, so there will be a mismatch. So you're highly qualified from a paper point of view,
right,
but you're still having difficulty getting the job because the job role has been disrupted and the job role has been redesigned because of technology and AI into something which is very, very different. So you keep chasing after skills that even with your master's or your PhD, you may not be able to do the job. So essentially, we are talking about skills here rather than credentials and paper qualification alone.
I like that you mentioned skills here, right? So I know of some employers that are shifting away from the credentials hiring and they're moving into more skills-based type of hiring. Do you see that as something that employees need to be working more on because you understand the market sitting in the middle?
The current job market and particularly the industry are still transforming. It has not stopped. With new technologies coming, especially on AI, that disrupts some of all these roles, companies are trying to rethink, can this job be done quicker, cheaper, and probably does it necessarily be always based in Singapore? That's why I said the watershed year is 2020, where a lot of the traditional jobs are Singapore-based. You have to go to the office to work.
Yeah.
With technology, some of all those work can be offshore. So even if you are qualified for the particular role, if that job, the skills requirement is not necessarily needed in Singapore because it is offshore, you will still be qualified and yet doesn't have a job because the job is no longer available in Singapore.
Yeah, and what would you then say would be the uncertainty within the current climate is evident, right? But when we look at things from a wait and see perspective, what do you think will potentially happen in the future as we wait and see based on what is happening in current climate?
Well, my short answer is you can't wait. You can see, but you can't wait. Simply because companies, organizations are evolving, especially now with the economic climate, right? So you will see right now with the tariff war, with all the imbalance of trade, companies are re-strategizing, rethinking, where should my growth be? Where should my market be? Where should I produce my things? Where should I make my things? Where should I service the thing? So companies are currently still in a flux and they are reorganizing. So overlaying this is if we are reorganizing, if we are going for the growth market, how are we going to peg this with the talents that we have and what kind of talents? Even the jobs are now being redefined, rescoped, and redesigned to keep pace with AI because some of those roles needed more than just simply processing, more than just simply thinking. Right now, a lot of the requirements of the skills, which we just talked about momentarily, has to do with, yes, you have got the information already at your fingertips because of technology and AI. What do you do with it? So the call for future skills, in effect, more creativity and more decision-making. Where should you be?
Soft type of skills, right?
Creativities and innovation. That will be the test in the world. The data is already available, right? How do you make the best decision out of it and still continue to grow the company and return the ROI to the stakeholders?
So if, let's say, hypothetically, someone who graduated from NTU and that you've worked with closely before previously, and at this point in time, he's thinking of taking a break, right? Because of burnout at work. What would your advice be to this person in terms of his decision to want to quit because he really can't take the pressures at work anymore?
If you ask me this question many years ago, and before 2020, before the COVID, well, seize the day and take a break, and you can re-engage again at any time, I will hesitate to make this comment in this current situation for a simple reason, right? Even if you take a break, and I'm referring to voluntary break. Now, involuntary, you can't help.
Yes,
you are retrenched, or you have to leave your job because the company is no longer there. But if it's voluntary due to many circumstances, one probably is health because you are burnt out. One probably has to do with family because it's taking a toll because you're working. There is some time back. There's this number called 996, right? The culture, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days away, and obviously it's more than 70 hours. Not in Singapore, probably in other countries. You feel like burning out. I would argue if really you burn out and you needed a break because of health and family, then you have no choice simply because certain things need to go. Health and families and even some other things becomes more important than simply a job. But putting that aside, I would be very hesitant now if I'm a young graduate or even a graduate that has got 3 to 5 years experience to just simply quit, hoping that I will get another job of similar role or similar pay. This may not happen because the job may not be there, either in Singapore or the job that you left before you quit may no longer be the job. Again, I remember when I mentioned job is now being redefined every other day because of technology, because some of those AI can take over certain of the role. The role is being redefined and the skill set is a different set of skill set. So if you quit and the skill set that has been with you for the past several years, and if you do not have the skill set and you apply for the same role, the role title may be the same, but you will find the normal comment, I wrote in 300 applications, none get, simply because the role requirements, the skills is very different and the job title could be very misleading.
So the onus would be on the employee to then also upskill to a certain extent between the job that they decided to leave to the next job that they hope to be getting, right?
Well, that get me excited because I part of my time is also talking to those who are out of work and also those who are preparing to quit. My advice to this group is now, in fact, even for the young graduates, you need to start planning your career for the next 5, 10, 15. Gone are my days where I can stay in a job for 10, 25 years, it will still be the same. Now, I couldn't dare to say that in 5 years' time, the job will still be the same because of the disruption. So what anyone, whether you are jobless, voluntary or involuntary, you need to now study the market. Where are the business coming from? And it can be across all industry, not necessarily of a particular industry. Where are the growth coming from? And those growth in those market companies that are selling products or services, what kind of skill set do I need in order to achieve those roles? and what do I have right now in terms of preparation. So, well, it may not sound encouraging to fresh graduates or even those who are PMETs. The life going on now is a constant upgrading, not because you want to chase after the paper. As I said, you need to keep pace with the skills that is required in the industry. I always use this analogy as Iron Man, right? You need to be equipped, or Batman, or your utilities belt. You need to keep pace, keep going after, keep looking at what does this role require, and be equipped either to trainings or whatever, or even self-learning, self-direct, so that when I have the opportunity, you can say in the job interview, whatever that you have as written, I'm already prepared to move into the job role.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
I like that, and it's extremely relevant to my role as a growth mindset coach as well as growth mindset trainer, right? It's always learning something new, progressing. So don't rest on your laurels. Your job might not always be there for you, and you might have another job that you might want to jump to. So don't wait until you want to jump to that job before you upskill. Upskill consistently. I think that is the message that I've taken away from that. Yeah, and if we were to switch sides, and if as an employer, how do you view candidates that you know have taken a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year kind of a sabbatical? Of course, they might have various reasons, right? I've been looking after my someone who is sick at home. For mothers, they might have had a first, second, or third child. For fathers, maybe they could have done similar, right? Or it could be going to do a further education or whatever, right? Just taking a career break with no reason. How do employers view this type of career break?
As an employer myself, previously on many occasions, I always believe that fellow Singaporeans like myself always has got a heart for the person that you are interviewing. So if the career break has to do with I need to take care of a family, I need to take care of aged parents, I need to take care of just my own self, physically or mentally, employers tend to factor that as a consideration, of course.
Okay.
Then the reality will hit in. This is the role. How would you be able to assume on this role? Just purely on the role perspective. So previously what I said, that even if you planned to quit and be re-engaged, you still constantly need to upskill to keep pace with those. Another analogy that I have is as if you're driving, right? You wheel off, you take a break, and then you re-engage. You still need to know what is the road condition ahead, and are you prepared to continue to do that. So there could be a situation whereby what you have applied for do not necessarily meet the skill set that is required. But because you come across as a situation where you really have got no control, and now things are better, I want to re-engage, employers may look at what are some of your other skill set, what are some of other areas which you can do. And they may just simply say, Mr. So-and-so, I don't think we have this fit for you based on your particular skill. But I also noticed that you have got some other training. And we have a division that deals specifically in a particular area of products or services that I think your skill set requires, right? Then you pivot and say, it is not what I have done previously before I quit, but now there's something new. So that's where the opportunity.
I pick up on two things here, right? So the first thing is that we must have variable or adaptable sets of skills such that the employer might identify that, okay, this role that you've applied for, we can't offer it to you, but we noticed that you can do this as well, or you've done this previously, and why not? Would you like to try this? So the first thing is have a wide a variety or array of skill sets. The second thing is to also set expectation to be open to take on something else that might not be what you have set your heart and mind into, which you've applied for.
Yeah, and I would add, may not be a similar senior role. It could be a little bit more junior, may not be the same pay that you have. And that is where I goes back to those I have counseled and says maybe certain point in life, not necessarily always has to be up. Those days are probably few and far between. You may need to pivot sideways, slightly lower, re-engage and move up again. If you believe in your skills and confident in your ability, you can re-engage and get back up again. So I'm always very optimistic when I counsel those who are in this area.
But would you say that someone with 3 to 5 years of experience as an employee versus someone with 10 to 15 years of experience as an employee, should there be a different mindset that they need to be adopting based on what the employer would be thinking of that career break that they took?
My view is, at the end of the day, I hesitate to say whether how much an age factor does affect. I tend to look at it is whether or not someone is 25 or someone is 35, 45 or 55. It depends on the job role. If the employers are prepared to hire for a particular job role, which suited someone which is younger, then those who are younger would certainly have the advantage in their mind because this is the kind of job size and the job role. And they figure out that those who are probably a bit more senior may not be able to, because after all, unless someone who is more senior in age are prepared to go for a junior positions. So in designing the job and is going out for the job market, employers tend to already size up the kind of position that they will have now. Then if someone who is a bit more senior, remember I always say job roles are now being redesigned based on the needs of current and future, packed in by AI, whether or not the kind of new skills. So if someone who is 35 or 45 is able to fit, then it is a matter of hiring that person. Again, pay is subjective, right? But more important is would that person be able to. So I wouldn't factor in so much of the age. What is more important is, do I have the skill set to assume a role? Now, of course, pay and offer depends on individual. Remember, you may want to take a lower pay, at least re-engage. You still have got your common benefits, your medical, which is very, very important. Your take home may be a bit lower, but your medicals will take care of the family. Then that to me will lessen the burden versus completely out of work and you have to worry about the paycheck.
The conversation that we've been having seems to weigh more heavily on the employer having the upper hand, right? But the reality of what is happening on the ground, from what conversations I have with hiring managers and some of my in my network business owners, they say they can't find the right people. So then it becomes the employee market. So do you think it's an employer's market or employees market? Or is it industry specific?
It is, in one sense, they are multi-factor. So I wouldn't want to sort of like zero in on one. But since you asked that question, I will sort of like put in one factor, but that's not the only factor. The market is changing so fast. The economic climate is changing so fast. So every other, I would just be a bit more direct and say maybe every other month or even week, things change. The business transformation continue. So certain things that we taught in school may not be directly relevant from there. Now, again, I would caveat this, it's not every industry. Those who are into technology will continue. Those probably in a slower industry area may be a bit more stable, right? Like for example, blue collar work, it will always be there. right? But the high techs or some of those white collar are susceptible, vulnerable to all this. So a young graduate, even if your course prescribe certain number of skills, and this is where I have been doing it for the last 17 years, you need to understand the day that you graduate, what are the jobs that you're going after? Do your skills during the 4 years or 3-4 years that you have in education prepares you for that? During our time, we probably never think about that because it's so stable. The moment that we graduate is enough for us to be enough to last us 10 to 25 years. Now it's not. The day that you enter university and the day that you leave university is 4 years. Many things have changed. So even if you are a fresh graduate without experience, you need to pick yourself with the kind of skills, with the kind of exposures. And in other conversations, you read about how some of those who are tertiary educated, whether it's IT, polys, or even universities, they have multiple internships. Why? Because they want to expose to different areas and be able to equip themselves. How else would you convince an employer to hire you with experience if you do not use your internship experience, aggregate it, and say, at least if you combine 1 or 2 years of experience in various factors. So for those who are more mature, back to the conversation that the role that I'm going, the industry that I'm going is changing. I go back to school, not because of certification again, because I want to equip with certain skill set that I have. The other point I want to make is not necessarily every skill has to be a certificate skills. There are a lot of online courses, in Google, in Coursera, or even some of those. Many are paid, but some are free. So you need to design and plan what will be your next destination and how you are going to go there.
This is addressing the question of how an employee can be more employable, making it the employee's market, right? Finding a job that is more suited to them. But does it address the question of whether it's an employer's market or employee's market in terms of the current climate?
Depends on industries. You will have employers that really says, I post this job and I have 10, 20, 30 rows of applicants. Certain employers, if you ask the small, medium enterprise, the SME, I post this job, I hardly get anyone. So the chicken and the egg has to be, well, in one sense, my sensing is employees are still choosy, could still be choosy in the kind of job roles, right? A lot of times, again, this is very much cultural. We always look upon white collar as something that we aspire, professional whatever, versus a blue collar. So my caution is maybe we should, from now onwards, rethink rather to have a distinction between white collar or blue collar. If you are a very, very skillful tradesman, you can command whichever fee that comes in,
So I guess it's a status quo, I think, in terms of there are some industries where employers seem to have the upper hand. There are some industries where employees seem to have the upper hand. And I guess with the question of unemployment, if someone was to try and look for a job or to be able to pivot to something that they can be employed in, they would want to be looking at sectors where the employers are feeling like, hey, why are we not able to find the right people?
And I would add maybe sectors that AI won't go into. So in general, it will be sectors where it has to do with human-to-human interaction. I don't think I would want to talk to a robot. My doctor shouldn't be a robot. I want a human to at least cry with me and talk to me, not a humanoid. But having said that, looking forward and go for a particular area that possibly at least in the next 3 to 5 years, the AI wouldn't enter. It doesn't mean that it will not be eventually. So if you are right now in the stage where I want to look for a job because I've been jobless for a while. Then the traditional areas where there are a lot of employees queuing up, a lot of stuff, the competition is very intense, then probably the blue-collar area or certain area that you may want to rethink, change your trajectory, and maybe it is a blessing in disguise that you left a previous job for whatever reason and get into. You could be happier. Pay may be lower, but you may be less burnout. You still can afford
And
your
you have a
holiday.
job, right?
And you have a job with the common band, with the medical, may not be 2 holidays a year, but good enough even for, neighboring holiday. So you maintain that. And more important, if you've got children, you know that you didn't shortchange the
I like that piece of advice, right? And I guess this is, of course, for those who are in the life stage of having children. But I guess there are also millennials and Gen Zs, younger people who feel, I don't need to have kids, so then that's not a concern for me. And for them, I guess working for meaning and working for purpose seems to be something that they need to do. But I think that's the conversation for another day, story for another day. I want to ask though, and I think it's important because, and you've encountered or helped so many people transit. You've had so many people find jobs. But the question will always be, I don't have enough time to upskill. I don't have enough time to keep current. How can I find time to do that so that I am ready to take that next leap when that opportunity comes?
When I work with my client, I would say, show me your typical week. And I say, okay, other than the very important things that you need to do, what do you do? Spend less time on YouTube. As an example, I'm not saying that you're not. The hours that you have, can you learn something? Can you learn something? Can you go into areas that you can do a part-time course for free and reinvest? So a lot of time we spend our time on things that the ROI may not necessarily give you. We can do that maybe during my times where things are so stable, you lose a job, you can easily get one. But now, every time, every moment becomes very, very important. Now, whether or not you may say, are we happier? Again, it depends on what is your outlook of life. It's always not necessarily the job title or the pay. So you can remove some of your time that you have on other things and concentrate on investing to upgrade yourself. Sometimes people may think that volunteering work, so there's another factor which I would advise. Sometimes volunteering work may seem like, why should I volunteer? But if you have certain passion on certain things, you got volunteer, you meet people. You'll never know what people you meet. You will never know what experience that you will encounter. So those are the kind of moments that may lead to, hey, maybe I didn't know that there is a need for that. Maybe I didn't know that somehow or other such things exist. It may trigger, not necessarily going back to work, it may trigger you starting up a business or small business or whatever. Now, in this day and age, not necessarily everything you need to have a rent or everything you need to invest in people. And again, back to AI, you can build certain AI agents that helps you to do certain things just on a one-man show, and you can start a business based on that. So the creativity part, the curiosity part needs to constantly be with us for the rest of our life.
I think that's a great answer and a great response. So really break it down into your day. Where can you find pockets of time? It's really about time management, right? So time management is one. You can reorganize your life, reorganize your lifestyle so that you can learn something new. And at the same time, it's important to expand your network beyond just work and home, because that's where you might build different relationships, and that's where there might be a spark for the next thing that you want to be doing, or also that next job or that next boss that you could potentially be working for, right? We are almost done in terms of the time, but one last question, right? So if there is someone that Die no choice must go on a break. What is too long a break for the employer to question, why did you take such a long break?
If you have a good response to the employer, why you take too long? I'll give you the obvious. I take a break to take care of my aging parents. And, it takes them 2 years to recover. That's why my break is 2 years. Again, January, I always have faith with the Singapore employers. Of course, I would say the same to the rest of the world, but just stick to Singapore. The heart is always there. If you are taking a break to do certain course, I take a break and I travel to neighboring countries and do volunteer. When you re-engage back, that's an asset. That's not a liability. I just want to have time for myself. And yet, during the 2 years, I am contributing. That goes very well with the CVs because you are gainfully. Versus, I quit and I do nothing because you will never be able to answer the question. So what have you been doing for the last two years? So even that break is working in one sense. You need to invest in working. So I would say to live a full and enriching life means your minds and your limb must constantly be working versus staying at home and then do nothing. Unless if it's for health reasons. Otherwise, I always encourage, get out of the house, do something, volunteer, and then maybe something will happen. And my last word is, if you don't go out, nobody knows you. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. If you don't go out, who knows you? Even go for a trade fair, you may bump into someone that's in the booth, your long-lost classmates, and you're out of work. Have a coffee, conversation, re-engage. You'll never know.
Lovely, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Pui Wah. Thank you for your time today. Lots of nuggets of wisdom, and the last few minutes, right, that Pui Wah shared. It's not about who you know, it's about who knows you, right? So go out there, meet people, and make new friends because you never know who might be that next employer or opportunity of work, right? That's all the time that we have for you today on Wise and Shine. If you're not already subscribed to The Financial Coconut, head on to our website, www.thefinancialcoconut.com, and leave your email address there so that you will be kept updated of episodes that we will be pushing out all the time. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all again soon.